I am filled with scotch and bitterness and impure thoughts.
Well, good morning. How is everybody doing? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever you're doing, wherever you're at. I'm Legal Vices, and welcome to Legal Vices. How we all doing? We're doing well here. Things are going pretty good today. Not too shabby. I can see that we are uneffed ourselves. Seems that YouTube is letting me off the hook and allowing super chats today. I see that already. Alan Tempa started us out with a yes, it's working super chat in the amount of $2. To which Flux says, hey, I'll see your $2, Alan, and I'll raise you $3. To which Alan responded like a cheap bastard, I see your 5 Flux and I won't raise you. LMFAO. Yeah. Then they all crapped out. See, and Alan says, oh, I'd like to see Jeff's face when he reads our super chats. I'm just disappointed. Just disappointed you didn't keep it going to see who would be the first to $500. Oh, well. I know you're cheap bastards. Anyway, just kidding. Thank you so much for that. Answered the age-old question of what happened to the stream yesterday. Well, apparently we talked about subjects that we're not allowed to talk about. So whatever. But we're back. Monetization seems to be back in business, which is good. So what's going on today? Well, today we're going to be looking at Making of a Murderer. And if let me put this camera here in the middle so I'm sort of looking at the camera and not off to the side as much as possible. Yeah, so the old Making of a Murderer case. I don't know how many of you in the chat have seen the Making of a Murderer documentary on Netflix or have been following it, but it's an interesting case, and we're going to be getting into a lot of the details that have newly emerged in the case. That's the thing. That's the question. The new stuff that has emerged. Alan Tempest, thank you so much again for the Aussie bucks. With lots of there better be 10, one for each Aussie dollar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great way to set off my OCD with only 9 laughing faces for one $10 super chat. Great. All right, and Solvis asks that age-old question. Why does Wisconsin have all the drama? Wisconsin has the crazy. Wisconsin has a lot of crazy. My mic is sounding really weird. What's the deal with my mic? Seems like it's got a lot of treble in it today. Not enough of my usual bass. Anyway, yeah, no, Wisconsin is loaded with crazy. I mean, you got the Rittenhouse stuff going on there. We've got Jeffrey Dahmer hanging out there. Kaczynski was there for a bit, I believe, before he was in Utah and Montana. Taylor Business is there. That's where we had the hell was the parent murderer that may or may not have taken a bite that may or may not have licked off the knife. Chandler. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy in Wisconsin, and that's where the Making of a Murderer scenario took place. All right. Gosh, I guess first thing we should note is that due to circumstances beyond my control, there will not be a stream tomorrow night. I'll try to clip some things just to throw it up. If not, and you'll have to live without me for a day. But I've got some obligations that cropped up, and I couldn't deal with them today, so I have to take care of them tomorrow evening. So you may have a day off. You may have something else to watch. I'm just not sure yet. We'll see what I can arrange. It's been a very, very, very busy week at work. So forgive me if I'm not here tomorrow. It'll just make you love me that much more. Hey, shout out to the mods. Good to see all the mods here doing your moddy things. You got Alan and Rose. And anybody else we got here? That Alan and Rose are the ones I see so far. And welcome to all of you here in the chat. As you know, we like to kick things off at the 100 viewer mark, and we are there for all intents and purposes. But this is a rough thing to figure out. This case is a little different to summarize, because if you've seen The Making of a Murderer, you clearly have your thoughts and opinions on whether or not Steven Avery is guilty. If you think he's innocent, then you may or may not have opinions as to who is the actual murderer in this case. But if you haven't watched it, then you likely know nothing about it and don't care at all about any people or what happens to any of them. So I don't really know how to approach the introduction to this. I tried to search on YouTube for some summaries of what's going on, the summaries of the cases, with some background information. But this case is so whacked out. There's so much going on in this case that the only summary I could really find. Wow, God, what's wrong with my mic? It's like possessed. All right, there we go. We're back to whatever normal is. The only summary I could find that really was even coherent, because there's so much going on in this case, was over 20 minutes. So that's not going to work. Danielle, hey, hi, welcome. Good to see you here. Lady Autumn Sky, we got lots of the regs. Mama Cash Crafts. Hey everyone. So all right. Again, I apologize if you know nothing about this case. What I've decided to do is read, like, from the worst place on the internet, Wikipedia. Just decided to blow through here and hit some highlights from the Wikipedia article about this, because that's all right. Well, let me address this question here from Amanda Sparkle. Where did we go? Jeff and our mods, do you have a Patreon or channel membership yet? I don't have a Patreon thing yet. A channel membership should be coming within the next couple of weeks. I was planning on getting it done next week, but I've just been so busy this week. I haven't been able to get in touch with the people that said they would make emojis for me. I haven't been able to get into setting things up. So it'll probably be about 2 weeks from now. I'll come up with some sort of weird tier system, and we'll take it from there. So yeah, channel memberships are coming in the next 2 weeks. So with that behind us, let's kind of give a little background on the Steven Avery case for those of you that may not be familiar, those of you that may not remember the details, the basic details. I mean, there's so much in this case that and No Mandate says Legal Vices needs a cowboy hat emoji. I've got a great one. One of the faithful listeners has made a cowboy hat emoji. That's the only emoji I have done at this point. But there'll be some fun stuff coming up. So this is Steven Avery is the defendant in this case. Steven Avery is in a very interesting position. This is the second time he's been sentenced to prison for a very, very long time. I can't recall if his first sentence was life without parole, or if it was just for an incredibly long time. But here's the recap, kind of paraphrased from Wikipedia. I don't know. Let's bring up the Wikipedia screen, because some people don't like to watch other people read. Some people like to read along. For those of you that may be hearing impaired, then we got that for you too. So let me bring up the Wikipedia page. Why not? We'll read it together, and that way I don't have to pretend that I'm not reading most of it. So here we go. We'll put my happy smiling face down under, and we'll enlarge this as much as we can. Oh, all right. Okay, this is just a very, very general summary of the case, and we'll talk a little bit more about the details that we all remember. This section may require cleanup. I assume they mean that Wikipedia needs cleanup. Yeah, it's a kind of a shit show here. Oh yeah, by the way, we are at 228 concurrent viewers and 90 likes. I haven't done the pre-stream grift thing yet, so hey, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do hit that like button. I know at least 40 of you haven't, so hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. We're at 23,564. I would be happy and pleasantly surprised if we happen to get 36 new subscribers from this stream today. But if you haven't subscribed, please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. If you get there, then we'll be at 23,600. The goal is to get to 24,000 and then move on to 25, logically. So please subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as far as super chats and super stickers go, not required. I try to watch the chat as much as possible, but most comments get past me because I'm doing the stream thing, concentrating on other things. But if you want to make sure I see your question, if you want to make sure I answer your question, or if you have a comment you want to make and you want to make sure it gets read to the universe, please super chat me. That's a surefire way. There's no minimum. It's not required. Just anything you want to do, just throw it up there and I'll answer the question. I'll talk to it. And if you can't or don't want to, hey, that's fine too. It's not a requirement. I'll just try to catch whatever comments I can in the comment section. And with that out of the way, let's look at this here. Making of a murder. God. So yeah, I keep saying making of a murder because I'm worse than Wikipedia a lot of times. So the background. The subject matter. Making a Murderer details the life of Steven Avery, a man whose family owned an auto salvage yard in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. In 1985, Avery was arrested and convicted of the SA of Penny Bearston, despite having an alibi. So he had the alibi and was convicted after 18 years of being in prison. Avery was exonerated with the aid of the Innocence Project. Innocence Project is a great organization. When the DNA in the case was matched to another man. After Avery was released from prison in 2003, he filed a $36 million lawsuit against Manitowoc County and several county officials associated with his arrest after conviction. Now, interesting thing here about that. The insurance company, as I understand, none of the insurance companies for the individuals and the county insurance company would not pay if they were found liable. So the county and the individuals themselves were possibly on the hook for $36 million. Very shortly after he filed this $36 million lawsuit against the county and county officials, mysteriously, he was arrested and charged with the murder of Teresa Halbach. She was a photographer who disappeared after she photographed a vehicle at the Avery salvage yard. I believe she was a photographer for an insurance adjuster or an insurance company. So she had a reason to be there and a reason to take pictures. The handling of the Halbach murder case was highly controversial. It was so controversial, they made the highest watched documentary in Netflix history about it. Making a Murderer. Steven Avery and his lawyers argued that he had once again been set up. Bloodstains, and that's the argument. The argument is the police wanted him out of there. The police wanted to get rid of him, so they framed him up for this murder so that he could go to jail for the rest of his life and they would be off the hook for any civil trial. So Steven Avery and his lawyer argued that he had once again been set up. Bloodstains recovered from the interior of Halbach's car matched Avery's DNA. Ooh, we're going to talk about that tonight. Avery maintained that the murder charge was a frame-up promulgated to discredit his pending civil case. His attorneys accused Manitowoc officials of evidence tampering. And if you saw that this was a big part of the trial, after a vial of Avery's blood stored in an evidence locker since 1985 trial was found with a broken container seal and a puncture hole in the stopper, suggesting that blood from the vial could, not necessarily did or was, but could have been used to plant incriminating evidence in the victim's vehicle. The Avery tube contained EDTA, which prevents blood coagulation and degradation. EDTA is not naturally present in human blood, and the defense argued that if EDTA was found in the crime scene blood, it would prove that the blood was planted. While the tampering charge was never substantiated, accusations of prosecutorial misconduct have persisted. And if you've seen that documentary, those prosecutors were dirty AF, and that's just coming straight from me. They were nasty, conniving, filthy human beings. That's just my opinion. The series further explores issues and procedures in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department that led to Avery's original conviction and suggested the department had a conflict of interest in investigating Halbach's murder. The series also covers the arrest, prosecution, and conviction of Avery's nephew, Brendan Dassey, who was accused and convicted as an accessory to the murder based largely on his confession under interrogation. And that interrogation of Brendan Dassey was some is it too early to say fuckery yet? I hope not, because that's what I just said. Yeah, that interrogation was some nasty coercive shit. I mean, the guy he's sort of kind of around Forrest Gump IQ, if he's that lucky. And I mean, it's a tragedy. If you haven't seen The Making of a Murderer documentary on Netflix, go watch it. It's astounding. So the series depicts his trial along with subsequent accusations of coercion and ineffective assistance of counsel. On August 12, 2016, Dassey had his conviction overturned by a federal judge on the grounds that he was unconstitutionally coerced by the police into confessing to the murder. And this was the only substantial evidence in the case. Now, on November 14th, 2016, federal judge William Duffin ordered Dassey's release from prison within 90 days if Wisconsin prosecutors didn't move forward to the retrial. Well, they did. They went forward with, gosh damn it, stop doing these pop-ups, Wikipedia. On November 17th, the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Seventh Circuit blocked Dassey's release while the appeal was being heard. A three-panel judge from the Seventh Circuit affirmed Judge Duffin's decision to release. And then it goes on, December 2017, a panel of 7 judges ruled in favor of upholding the original conviction. In a split vote of 4-3, ruling that the police had properly obtained Dassey's confession. He was that close to getting out. But now he's back in prison, and that's where he will stay. And that's kind of where the first series wraps up. Steven Avery's in prison, and young Master Dassey is also in prison. Now, I mean, there's a huge cast of characters, and the Dassey family plays very, very prominently into this. They're all related, the Averys and the Dasseys. But yeah, so the problems with the trial were immense. Before I start rambling about that, let's scroll up. I saw a super chat here. Yes, from Irish I Was Drunk. How are we? Joining the chat a bit late. We just got started. Only 10 minutes late. It's great to have you here, and thanks for that super chat. Irish I Was Drunk. And speaking of Irish I Was Drunk, I have a delicious and incredibly amazing Manhattan with 2 legit maraschino cherries. That's the drink of the evening, making a Manhattan. That's me. So that's what I'll be calmly drinking throughout the night. But as I said, I tried to find a summary of this case to give you just kind of a breakdown or a review of all of the things that were shady AF about this trial. But as I said, the one that was most coherent, was the least coherent, but the easiest to follow, was about 20 minutes. The ones that are really decent were averaging about an hour and 20 minutes long. That's how much stuff was going on in this trial. But basically, the main complaints were from Avery's side that they framed him up, first of all, and 2, that even whether or not they did, when they went into the investigation, assuming that he had done it. And rather than paying any attention to any evidence that would exonerate him, they focused on him, they built the case around him doing it, and they took whatever steps necessary, including falsification of evidence, coercing admissions, and things like that, to make sure that they convicted him. Flux, thank you so much for the super chat. It is legitimately a travesty of justice. The interrogation, Brandon story, doesn't even fit the evidence. The blood, the chains, seriously, WTF. And I mean, there was no blood anywhere on the property. They said that that they had taken her, they had done these horrible things to her on bed, they had chopped up the body, threw them in a burn pit and in a barrel and torched her. But there was no blood anywhere except for a couple of drops of Avery's blood in her car. They'd searched, and they have this huge compound of used cars, and it's basically a car graveyard, salvage yard. And they searched this place for months and months and months, and they didn't find the car. But suddenly one day they just magically walked straight to the vehicle that was in the edge of the property under some trees and bushes. And they went through Avery's house a bajillion times, but suddenly one day, just magically, they found the keys to Tracy's car behind a dresser, or on the floor next to a dresser, basically in plain sight. And somehow they never saw that before. So there was a lot of things that were really, really, really super shady about this investigation. Irish, I was drunk. Sláinte, which means cheers in Irish or Gaelic. Sláinte fab to you as well. Ah, yum. So, the idea was for him to get a new trial. He exhausted most of his appeals, or if not all of his appeals that he could. And then the idea, he's been trying to get a new trial. And he retained the assistance of Kathleen T. Zellner. Kathleen Zellner is a very, very well-known attorney for a firm that essentially does the same thing like Project Innocence does. They represent people that they believe are wrongly convicted. And that was one thing that she said at the beginning when she looked at the case and saw the problems. She said, if you did this, I will find out. And she wholeheartedly believes him. Drew Bradley, you two have fun at the Blue Oyster Bar in Korea. Blue Oyster Bar. Such an idiot. Lol. Okay. Me and Legal Mindset, we went out last Friday. Had some fun in some bars. But yeah. Kathleen Zellner, she's filed a motion. She's tried to get a new trial. That's the objective, either to get the conviction overturned and a new trial, or at least a new trial. Just she wants a new trial, at least a release if possible. And it's an uphill battle. I mean, when you have gone this far and you've exhausted all reasonable appeals, and you are just trying to find a way to get a new trial, it's an amazingly difficult uphill battle. And that's the way the courts are designed. They don't want people just filing for new trials every day for no reason whatsoever. So there's a rather high standard you have to meet to get to that point of getting a new trial. And this is the latest attempt. And I want to go through this with all of y'all. And because there's some very, very interesting. Let me put up a poll here, by the way, at the beginning. It'll be just a simple. I don't know if I want to do it a guilt or innocence or a guilt innocent don't know thing. Let's do a guilt innocent don't know. STEVEN Avery : making a murderer. Guilty. Guilty or innocent, or don't know. Unsure. Damn it. Unsure. All right, there you go, community. I have set up the poll. The poll is STEVEN Avery, making a murderer, guilty, innocent, unsure. I am leaning strongly towards innocent in this one. Again, as we talked about last night, if you watch the stream, a lawyer will never give you a 100% sure answer. But I would say I am convinced personally he is innocent and was set up, but I cannot rule out the possibility that he may have been involved in Tracy Halbach's death one way or another. There's another option, which, you could consider that he's guilty, but the police did such a bad job, he should be released. I mean, that's always an option. Michelle, I messed up. I accidentally clicked the wrong button. There you go. Now you've screwed the whole poll. Well, what was your actual real vote? What's the actual real vote? And we'll adjust it accordingly. Did I say Tracy? No, sorry if I said Tracy. It's Teresa Halbach. Sorry about that. All right. So here we are. It's 2022. This happened ages and ages and ages ago. He's getting old. And see, these are the shitty things that if you're wrongly convicted, if he's wrongly convicted, his mother died 2 years ago, I think, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And of course, he couldn't go to the funeral, couldn't say goodbye to his mother because he's in jail. Michelle says she voted innocent, or she should have voted innocent. So when you're locked up, you lose these freedoms, and the amount that they offer you as a settlement is ridiculous. How do you compensate for the first 18 years he was in jail, wrongly convicted, and then he wants to get paid, and then mysteriously the cops tell him he's being pegged for a murder. Nothing shows up on his property until a car shows up later. Some keys show up later. His blood shows up in the car. Little bit sus there, but she's doing her job to get him out. And we're going to dive right in now to this really, really long, but we're not going to look at all of it, motion, because there's some very, very interesting details in here. 2 new witnesses. There's much, much new evidence, and there's some really, really disturbing details in there. The basic cast of characters you need to know is relatively small. So we'll introduce them as we begin and go through this. So, and by the way, the dogs are here this morning, evening, afternoon, whatever. It's 9:30 p.m. here. So the dogs are here. Any heavy breathing or snoring you hear is coming from them and not me. Windows. Here we are. All right. This is us. Let's go under here again. I see we have lots of opinions. So if you have an opinion on this, let's see how it develops over time. While we're here, we've got 222 people currently with us. That's good for a topic that nobody else is talking about on the internet. If you're talking Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, you can get hundreds and hundreds of people, but this is kind of an off-the-cuff thing. By the way, this was just filed on August 16th, 2022 by Kathleen T. Zellner. So this is a new thing. I'm not sure if it'll catch on or people will take notice, but this is a very significant thing. This is a notice of motion and third motion for post-conviction relief. We'll give you a brief history here of the other attempts. The document is 149 pages long, but of course we're not gonna do all of that. We're just gonna hit the important parts. Okay, petitioner Stephen A. Avery respectfully moves this court pursuant to Wisconsin statute, blah, 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 for an order vacating the judgment of his convictions and sentence and ordering a new trial. That's one. Either vacate the judgment and order a new trial, or just give a new trial in the interest of justice or the court's inherent authority, because the real controversy was not fully tried. That's the argument, that because of improprieties and basically what we'll call shenanigans, the case was not fully tried at the initial hearing. Angels lie to keep control. I like that nickname. That's good. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yes, super chat does work tonight. So please feel free. Anyone that wants to pile on and make up for last night, go ahead, but it's not required. I'm just kind of half kidding. Let's see if we can make this a little bit larger for those. Nah, it's not going to work. There we go. That's as large as I can make it on the screen here. So he wants either the the conviction overturned or vacated, not overturned, vacated, and a new trial, or at least just a new trial. Introduction. Two new witnesses have emerged in Mr. Avery's case with new and compelling evidence about a murder mystery that has intrigued a worldwide audience. The rush to judgment and tunnel vision that led to the arrest, prosecution, and conviction of Mr. Avery is exposed by these new witnesses who provide new and undisputed evidence that directly links Bobby Dassey, Bobby, to the murder of Teresa Halbach and the framing of Mr. Avery. So who the hell is Bobby Dassey? We have Brendan Dassey, who was convicted as being a co-participant in assisting with the murder or cleanup of the murder, whatever the details were of his conviction. Well, Bobby Dassey is Brendan Dassey's brother. So you've got Brendan Dassey that's been convicted and in jail, and now Avery's lawyer is insinuating that it was actually the jailed Brendan Dassey's brother, Bobby Dassey, that committed the murder. And you'll be surprised by one of the new witnesses against him. And as some of you are mentioning, the general consensus is that Bobby Dassey is a piece of shit. So there is undisputed evidence that directly links Bobby Dassey to the murder of Teresa Halbach and the framing of Mr. Avery. The real motive for this crime is a homicide, a sexual homicide, grape, and deletion, if you will, which is the culmination of an obsession by Bobby with viewing thousands of images of violent, deviant pornography. On October 31, 2005, the obsessive fantasies of Bobby became a horrible reality. This was on Halloween. Became a horrible reality when Teresa Halbach was brutally assaulted and murdered by 2 rifle shots to her skull. Her body was mutilated, as were many of the female subjects in the Bobby Dassey computer images. Bobby was in possession of the Halbach vehicle, which contained the crucial evidence of this terrible crime: Ms. Halbach's blood, key, electronic devices, and license plates. Bobby was able to control the direction of the investigation by being in possession of her vehicle. He planted the vehicle on the Avery property. And these are the assertions, these are the allegations of Steven Avery's lawyer. She's saying that this is what the new evidence shows. Bobby was able to control the direction of the investigation. He planted the vehicle on the Avery property after he deposited Mrs. Avery's blood and DNA in it. Bobby did all of this to exculpate himself and to frame his uncle. There's another family connection. Bobby and Brendan were nephews of Steven Avery. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Thank you so much for currently hyperfixated. Would you do a poll of how many people watched the documentary on Netflix and see how the numbers match up with the first poll you made? Okay. That could be interesting. How are we doing so far? Oh, interesting. So far, we got 14% guilty, 39% innocent, and 47% unsure. We'll let this go until 10 o'clock. We'll give 20 more minutes on this poll, and then we'll do this poll. We'll do the poll on how many watched and how many didn't watch and see how the numbers match up. That's a good idea. Thank you for that. So there we go. That's what we're going to look at. Yeah. So let's continue. Thank you again for that. That was a very good suggestion. So they're saying that Bobby did all of this to frame his uncle. This is a really incestuous situation where everybody's related to everybody and everybody's doing everybody wrong here. So Bobby did all this to exculpate him and frame his uncle, Mr. Avery. Mr. Avery this is a very important point too. Mr. Avery does not have to prove who committed this terrible crime to receive relief. He does have a right to prove he did not receive a fair trial. That is a very, very, very salient point. By bringing these motions, he doesn't have to prove that Bobby did it or someone else did it. He just has to prove to the court that there is sufficient reason to, sorry, the dogs were making too much noise back there and I had to scare them. He just has to provide sufficient evidence and legal framework to say that there is a possibility that someone else did it. He doesn't have to prove who did it. He just has to prove that there's someone else. Ooh, Rosalie Ruse, thank you so much. You feel Netflix was very biased. So I'm guessing that you are in the camp that he is guilty. You could argue that Netflix was biased. Other people may argue that at least the Netflix got out a new and equally valid theory of the case beyond what the prosecutors would have us believe. That's one way of looking at it. But so you feel the Netflix was very biased. I wish you would have given a reason why. Rosalie, give us a reason if you give us, you don't have to super chat this. Just give a reason, and I'll keep an eye out here on the chat, and we'll see what your reasons are if you believe that he was guilty, or what your reason why you believe they're biased. So yeah, anyway, he just has to prove that someone else, there's a high like, we'll get into the exact legal requirements, but it's essentially he has to prove that there is at least a reasonable possibility that someone else did this. He doesn't have to prove who it was or how they did it or anything like that. And if he can prove that he didn't have a fair trial, that's good enough as well. So here's the statement of the case, which is essentially the background. The case began in early November 2005 with the disappearance of Teresa Halbach, a 25-year-old professional photographer. Ms. Halbach was reported missing on November 3rd. That is a very, very important date. Well, Sapper says that, well, Netflix has been known to side with the shitbag in the past, regardless of the evidence. Yeah. But so remember the date, November 3rd. That was the first time she was reported missing. So she disappeared basically she was murdered, we'll say on October 31st. She was first reported missing on November 3rd. Volunteer searchers found Ms. Halbach's Toyota RV4 on the 40-acre site. Damn it, dogs. Stop knocking my table around. Damn it. They found it on the side of the alley salvage business, and other family members lived and worked on November 5th. I thought it was a lot later. I thought it was a few months after. I thought they found it like 3 or 4 months after, but I guess they found it 2 days after. Okay. All right. I had to reprogram myself, my brain there. So Ms. Halbach had photographed vehicles at the site previously per Mr. Avery's request. According to state witnesses Bobby, Ms. Halbach, and again, Bobby Dassey was the state's primary witness. He was the star witness against his uncle and brother. What does that tell you? Anytime someone flips on a family member like that, either they're a complete degenerate who has no sense of value, family morals, or their personal morals. That tells you they likely got something out of it. Think on that. So, according to state witness Bobby, Ms. Halbach was last seen walking towards Mr. Avery's trailer on October 31, 2005. After finding Ms. Halbach's RAV4 RAV4, kind of a little SUV looking thing, law enforcement searched the Avery property, and over the course of the next 4 months, okay, that's what it was. The investigation was over 4 months, discovered and identified evidence, including burned bone fragments in and around a burn pit with DNA matching Ms. Halbach's, Mr. Avery and Ms. Halbach's blood in the RAV4, the remnants of electronic devices and a camera, the same models as Ms. Halbach's, in a burn barrel, Ms. Halbach's RAV4 key in Mr. Avery's bedroom. And if you've seen this, if you've seen this episode where they find this key, it was sitting there, allegedly sitting there for an extremely long time, essentially right out in the open next to a nightstand, and nobody ever managed to see it until one day the cops go, "Oh, look what we found." That was that finding that key was the thing that really made me start to suspect that the police might be up to no good. Because the way I recall, there was no reason that someone should have ever missed that key given the location it was in. That should have been one of the first things they saw when they walked into that room. And again, I encourage you to go back and watch the series if you haven't done. I'm going to give it a rewatch, I think, just because this has reignited my interest in the case. They found, let's see, Mr. Avery's DNA on the hood latch of the RAV4, deposited, the state later claimed, by Mr. Avery's sweaty hands, and a bullet in Mr. Avery's garage. Yeah, that was one of their big pieces of witness. That was one of the big pieces of evidence that they said they found. They scoured his entire garage. I mean, just top to bottom. And they found one live round in his closet. I mean, in his garage. That was essentially the only piece of evidence other than the keys they found in his house. Rosalie Rue, she's our voice of reason here. Rosalie Rue says the key fell out from behind a bookshelf after they knocked it and it came loose. It had been hidden. But again, that begs the question. I mean, you could very well be right, but that begs the questions. If you've murdered someone, A, why would you hide the car on your property? And B, why would you hide the keys to the murdered person's vehicle in your own house? I mean, I know these guys aren't rocket scientists. They're not the sharpest tool in the shed, but you'd question why they would do that. But that's not saying you're wrong, just asking questions, playing devil's advocate. But in any event, this case is seriously strange. So here's the procedural history. Here's what's happened in this case. 2006, before Mr. Avery's trial, the trial court entered an order entitled An Order Regarding State's Motion Prohibiting Evidence of Third-Party Liability. Now, basically, one of the things you can do is say it wasn't me, it was somebody else, and give evidence as to who that third party might be. But there are certain requirements that must be met to do that. It's called a Denny motion. And the deal with a Denny motion, that comes from a 1984 case called State v. Denny. I can't remember actually what state it was. Can't remember which state it was, but the ruling basically states that in order to introduce evidence that a third party committed this crime, you have to show that this third party had motive, and they had opportunity. They had motive to commit the crime. They had opportunity to commit the crime, and that they had the ability to commit the crime. And that's not as easy as it sounds. You have motive, opportunity, and what's the word? I know the word. I know what the word is in Korean, but I can't think of what it is in English. Damn it. Direct connection. Okay, God dang it. They had the motivation, they had the opportunity, and there is a causal link or an evidentiary link between the third party person and the murder. Damn it, I can't speak. It's like Stephen Wright, the comedian, said, I'm a bilingual illiterate. I can't speak two languages now. So yeah, did this third person have motive? Did they have opportunity? And is there any meaningful evidence connecting them to the crime? Those are the three things that you need to meet. That's the test you need to meet in order to bring evidence of third-party liability or third-party responsibility for the crime into a case. And we'll talk about these elements a little bit more in detail later. You just need to clear that up because they're going to talk a lot about the Denny motion before they actually get to the Denny test with the with Mr. Dassey. So the order specified that if the defendant, this is the order regarding you can't bring any third-party liability allegations unless you meet that test. The order specified that if a defendant intended to suggest that a third party other than Brendan Dassey is responsible for the crimes charged, the defendant must notify the court and state. In other words, give advance notice. We are going to point the finger at a different person. So you have to give advance notice of doing that. So January 10th, 2007, they filed that motion. They filed their statement alleging a third party is responsible. Mr. Avery stated that he did not kill Ms. Halbach and that there was at least a reasonable, this is statutory language. There's at least a reasonable possibility that one or more unknown others present at or near the Avery salvage yard on the afternoon of October 31st, 2005, killed her. And he identified several people. They don't figure into this. Scott Taddy, Andre Martin, blah, blah, but the Dassey brothers. The Dassey brothers do figure into this motion highly. Mr. Avery argued that Denny, that test, did not apply to the circumstances in this case. But the court said they did. The court entered its decision and order on admissibility of third-party evidence. The trial court found that in the absence of motive, it certainly may be more difficult for the defendant to offer evidence which is relevant and material connecting a third person to the crime. The court simply finds nothing in the offer made by the defendant that goes beyond the level of pure speculation. So remember, you had to meet the three standards: opportunity, motive, and a reasonable link to the crime. And the court just found there was no motive proven. He just speculated. He threw out these names as possibilities, didn't establish motive for any of them. So they dismissed, they issued this order saying he can't do that. Then the verdict came down. March 18th, 2007. Avery was convicted following a jury trial of first-degree intentional homicide, which outside of Wisconsin is first-degree murder. Now, Rubio makes an interesting comment. I remember watching it because it was depressing. AF. Not a huge fan of this type of show. At the end of the day, a woman is murdered. That's depressing thing number one. Depressing thing number two. Thank you for clarifying the Netflix show, not Legal Vices. I mean, at the end of the day, someone is murdered. Someone murdered her. And as the situation sits now, either it's just a murder with the right person in jail, or the compounding factor of a murder plus someone who didn't do it sitting in jail, and the compounding factor of someone is murdered, someone who did it is unjustly in jail, and someone who did do it is not being punished. Yeah, there's no happy endings to these, because at the end of the day, someone is still dead. So that was an interesting comment that was being made there by Rubio. So what happens? The verdict. He was convicted of first-degree murder, first-degree intentional homicide, and a felon in possession of a firearm. The jury found Mr. Avery not guilty of mutilation of a corpse. Well, gee, thanks. So 2 years later, the post-conviction counsel, which is the literally what it says, the lawyers that he gets after he's been convicted, filed a motion for post-conviction relief, seeking a new trial. This was his first attempt. Right now, this is a motion for his third attempt at a new trial. His first attempt at a new trial was on the grounds that the trial court improperly excused a deliberating juror. That's an interesting thing. I looked a little bit into it at the time, and I can't remember all the details, but in the middle of deliberations, one of the lawyers had a family emergency, and they dismissed him for, I can't remember what the grounds were for dismissing him, and then someone else took his spot. One of the alternates took his spot in the deliberations. But he said in an interview after that he would have voted not guilty. So that's an interesting thing, whether this guy was improperly excused or not. That was one ground. And two, the trial court improperly excluded evidence of third-party liability. So that's where we're saying they ruled that he couldn't bring in the third party liability evidence, but they said that was an error. That was a mistake. The judge should have let that in. So the next year, 6 months later, January 25th, 2010, the motion for post-conviction relief was denied. Strike one. The judge found that the only evidence offered by the defendant to show motive on the part of Bobby Dassey. See, his other post-conviction lawyer, they had Bobby Dassey pegged from the get-go. But the only motive they could show consisted of evidence allegedly supporting a motive to frame STEVEN Avery. No evidence is offered to suggest Bobby Dassey had a motive to murder Teresa Halbach. That is one of the things that's going to be key in this particular motion. Did Bobby Dassey have motive to murder Teresa Halbach? Judge Willis concluded the evidence offered against Bobby Dassey probably did meet the opportunity and direct connection to the crime requirements of the legitimate tendency test because of his presence on the property at the time Teresa Halbach was there. However, without any showing of motive, third-party evidence against Bobby Dassey is precluded under Denny. So there we go. We have the court saying that 2 of the 3 parts of the test were probably met. He probably did have the opportunity. He probably did have the direct connection, but you still failed to prove motive, so the motion was denied. No new trial for STEVEN Avery. December 14th, 2011, the Wisconsin Supreme Court denied Mr. Avery's petition for review. So he appealed it and said, hey, please review this. And then he filed his second pre-conviction motion, pro se, all by himself. He didn't have a lawyer, and that's just not something you want to do because you don't know how to file the motions yourself, and bad things go wrong and they get dismissed. But that's what he did. He filed his second motion for post-conviction relief by himself, and they denied it. And that was the end of that. So the appellate the appellate court issued a per curiam opinion upholding the circuit court's summary denial of his claims, and the Supreme Court denied it. They wouldn't look at it. The Wisconsin Supreme Court wouldn't look at it. So that brings us to today. That brings us to right now, today. Let's see where we're sitting on let's end this poll now. We're pretty much exactly where we were 15 minutes ago. Oh, excuse me while I cough here. Okay, I'm back. Guilty, 14%. Only 14% of you are sure he's guilty. Innocent, 39%. Frankly, I expected more. 47% say unsure. That's a good poll. Now, how many votes did we get? Let me write this down. We got 216 votes. 216 votes. All right. Now, let's put up the next poll. The next poll we'll leave up. See how many of you did you watch Making a Murderer on Netflix? Yes or no? All right. See, a lot of people don't like documentaries, especially documentaries about ongoing things, because they don't tie up the loose ends. They don't give you a concrete answer. What's the dog doing? Hey, dog. A lot of people like their stuff packaged into a neat little package that gives you a 3-arc deal, introduction, crisis, resolution. A lot of documentaries don't do that. We never find out the answer, and a lot of people don't like them. Don't like documentaries, especially crime documentaries, for those reasons. Well, let's bring us up to date here. The appellate court reserved Mr. Avery's ability to file a successive motion on certain claims. What sucks is when the court says you're done, you have no more options. The appellate court at least allowed him the option of bringing another motion. So on April 12, 2021, during the pendency of Mr. Avery's appeal, Mr. Avery filed a motion with the appellate court to stay his appeal and remand for evaluation of a new claim. I mean, that's a long way of saying, while the court was considering the appeal, he said, wait, stop considering the appeal. We have new evidence. We have a new claim. There's something new happening. So on November 9th, 2020, we notified the parties that this case had been submitted to the court for a decision on briefs. Avery filed another motion with this court to stay his appeal and remand for evaluation of a new claim. So basically, hey, stop it. There's new stuff. Let's go back and add another claim to my motion or to my appeals. This claim concerns an alleged Brady violation. A Brady violation is basically the cops didn't turn over evidence. We'll get more into a Brady violation a little bit later, but that's the gist of it. You have a duty to turn over all evidence that's asked for to the other party, even if it includes stuff that does not go well for your case. The police have a duty to turn over evidence that shows that the suspect did not do it. So they're saying there was a violation. The factual basis for which Mr. Avery obtained on April 11th, 2021. Specifically, the claim is based on the affidavit of Thomas Sowinski, a Manitowoc motor route driver. This is our first piece of new evidence. They're saying the police did not turn over this evidence when asked to do so. A major allegation of police fuckery. Specifically, the claim is based on the affidavit of Thomas Sowinski, a Manitowoc motor route driver, who attests that days after Ms. Halbach's death, while on his paper route in the early morning hours, he spotted a shirtless Bobby Dassey and an unidentified older man pushing Miss Halbach's vehicle down Avery Road towards the junkyard. Okay, so some guy comes, 15 years, 16 years after the murder allegedly happened and says, "Oh yeah, I saw them. I saw them push. I saw Bobby Dassey and this other guy pushing her car down the street to the junkyard." Well, in and of itself, that doesn't. In and of itself, that doesn't really prove much. But he added this, that after he delivered his paper, Bobby Dassey attempted to block his exit, causing him to swerve and drive into a shallow ditch. Okay, still, yeah, we'll get to Manitowoc. Just leave me alone. I'll throw up. All right, all you people that live there in Wisconsin land. There you go. There's one from Utah. Pronounce that word. Here, try that one. How's that one work, huh? We've got our Indian words as well. Come on. Tooele, by the way. That's not Thule, it's a Tooele, and I left an L out. Sorry, Tooele-ites. We've got lots of Indian names too. Yeah. See, Faladay, you're in the know. Nah, Duchesneys have a lot of people do, but yeah, we've got all our things going out. Thule, yep. So anyway, let's get back in here. Mr. Sowinski claimed to. This is where the evidence comes in. This is where the fuckery comes in. Mr. Sowinski claimed to have called the, how do we all pronounce it apparently, kids? Manitowoc. Mr. Sowinski claimed to have called the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office later that day. Like a couple of, like you said, the days after Miss Halbach's death. He called the sheriff's office to report what he had seen, but he was told, quote, they already knew who did it. That's the first bit of fuckery. Mr. Sowinski says he called the police days after this happened and told him that he saw Bobby Dassey and some other old guy pushing the car they were looking for down the street. But the police said, we already know who did it. How is this? We have Flux. Thank you so much for the super chat asking, how is this just coming to light now? Well, glad you asked. We'll get to that. And let's keep going here. So he claims to have attempted to, and not only did he call the police, not only did he call the sheriff's office and say, hey, this is what I saw. He also claims to have attempted to contact Avery's trial lawyers after season 1 of Making a Murderer, but never heard back from them. That turns out to not be the case. He was mistaken, and we'll get to that just a little bit later. But yeah, that's the first bit of police and prosecutorial fuckery that may have been going on in this case. We're an hour into this. It's time to do the midstream grift. Concurrent viewers, we've got 289 people and 239 likes. I would be deeply, deeply happy if you that haven't hit that like button would just go down there and hit the like button so that we can let YouTube know you like what's going on here. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. This is the kind of stuff we do here. This is the kind of stuff we talk about. And we also have a lot of fun. And I have the best chat on the damn internet. Full stop. If you like the chat, if you like to be here, if you like the topics, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. If you are a member, just double check to make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube. As you can see, the super chats get your stuff read and get your stuff addressed and get your comments out there. That's all up to you. Had one starred comment. Drew Bradley, thank you so much for your comment. Thank you for fun, entertaining. Thank you, fun, entertaining, and educating me. Doing my best. Trying my darndest for you. Sunshinery, hey, have you been lurking here? Steph, you're here too. Hey, sweet. Some of my mods snuck in under the radar. We've got 2 more mods. Steph, you're awesome. Sunshinery, you're awesome as well. See, I've got the best mods. I've got the best chat. All right. On that note, let's jump back into it. So we have the first bit where they're saying, hey, they have this witness saying, I told the police. Days after it happened, they told me they already knew who did it. I tried to contact someone from the legal side of things, but I never heard back. Simply put, Avery's appeal cannot continue. And this is they denied this stay. They said, okay, this may be new stuff you're bringing, but that's got to be part of a new issue because we can't continue to delay the one we're hearing now forever. Simply put, Avery's appeal cannot continue indefinitely. Accordingly, this decision operates as an order denying Avery's April 12th, 2021 motion to stay and remand. If Avery wants to raise this new claim about Sawinski, he must file a new motion with the circuit court. And that's what we're looking at here. And here's the explanation for a little bit of this. Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel has investigated the matter further to learn that Mr. Sawinski did not contact Mr. Avery's trial attorneys as he originally believed and stated in his original affidavit, but rather that he emailed the Innocence Project in 2016 after watching Making a Murderer Season 1. His email was never passed along to any of Mr. Avery's attorneys. Mr. Sawinski's first attempt to contact Mr. Avery's current post-conviction attorneys was in December of 2020. So that's how we got there. That answers the question for Flux. How is this just now coming to light? He says he told the police and was told they already know who did it and ignored. He tried to contact Project Innocence in 2016, but the messages were never forwarded to Avery's lawyers, and now she just heard about it in 2020. And that's how it's just coming to light now. So what happened? We'll get into what happens after she hears about it. So after Mr. Avery filed his second post-conviction motion in 2017, further, Mr. Sawinski's memory was refreshed with a recorded dispatch that was recently discovered in that he made the call to Manitowoc Sheriff's Office on November 6, 2005. So there was a new recording, and they brought that up with him. We'll get into the details later. We can fast forward through. Okay, now we get into the main meat of the third post-conviction motion, which is what this is. Newly discovered evidence, new witnesses provides. Remember, they said you have the you might have the conviction, you might have the connection, you might have the opportunity, but you were unable to prove Bobby Dassey's motivation. Well, the new witness provides direct connection because it was only you may have it. They say they found uncontested evidence that Bobby is connected to the murder of Teresa Halbach and that he planted evidence to frame Mr. Avery. Mr. Sawinski stated that he had witnessed Bobby and one other individual, a bearded man, pushing Ms. Halbach's RAV4 onto the Avery salvage yard in the early morning hours of November 5th, 2015, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the day it was found. Again, they searched the whole thing, and then mysteriously they found it, and he's saying, I saw them pushing it onto the lot that morning. Mr. Sawinski claimed that he had reported this information to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office. And this is from his affidavit that was provided on April 11th, 2021. Mr. Sawinski was a motor route driver for Gannett Newspapers, Inc., and delivered papers to the Avery salvage yard in the early morning hours of November 5th of 2005. Prior to delivering the newspapers to the Avery salvage yard, he turned onto the Avery property and witnessed two individuals, a shirtless Bobby Dassey and an unidentified older male, suspiciously pushing a dark blue RAV4 down Avery Road towards the junkyard. The RAV4 did not have its lights on. Mr. Sawinski drove past the two men and delivered newspapers to the Avery mailbox, and he then turned around and drove back towards the exit. When it reached the RAV4, still over there, Bobby Dassey attempted to step in front of his car to block him from leaving the property. Mr. Sawinski came within 5 feet of Bobby Dassey, and his headlights were on Bobby during the entire time. Then Sawinski swerved into a shallow ditch to escape Bobby and exit the property. Mr. Sawinski states in his affidavit that he called out, "Paperboy, gotta go," because he was afraid for his safety. He further stated that Bobby Dassey looked him in the eye and did not appear happy to see Mr. Sawinski there. After Mr. Sawinski learned that Teresa Halbach's car was found later in the day on November 5th, he realized the significance of what he'd observed and immediately contacted the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office. To recap again, for about the 900th time, which I know people like Fair and Balanced hate, but they searched the lot, didn't find it. Suddenly, it magically shows up on the lot. The news breaks, and he goes, "Oh, wait a minute! I saw that Bobby fucker pushing that car earlier today. I'll call the cops." He calls the cops and says, "I saw Bobby Dassey pushing that car with another guy," and they said, "Oh, never mind. We already know who did it." Police misconduct? The Sawinski evidence provided by Mr. Sawinski to Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel is newly discovered evidence, which proves the missing direct connection between Bobby and Ms. Halbach's murder, making him a Denny suspect. Boom, he's a suspect. We have the connection. We've proven the connection. Now, that's not the only condition they have to meet. The discovery of the new evidence may constitute sufficient reason for a second or subsequent for a new trial, basically. However, this is the Denny test in more detail here. To prevail, however, the movement must carry the burden of proving that the evidence at issue is newly discovered. You can't ask Amber Heard. Amber Heard's going to find out. Her supporters are going to find out. You can't bring in new evidence to a trial unless it was, you just can't bring new evidence. So here they're saying that, it has to be hidden, and this is a criminal thing. It's not a civil proceeding. Just forget I said that. But basically, you if the evidence was available before the judgment or before the trial, you can't bring it up. You should have known about it before then. So it must be discovered after conviction. If you knew about it before conviction and you didn't bring it in, that's your own damn fault. You should have brought it in when you had the chance. So discovered after conviction. The defendant was not negligent in seeking evidence. If it was discovered before, or if you were just you didn't ask the right questions, you didn't examine, you were given the evidence but you didn't examine all of the documents closely, you don't get to bring it up because you screwed up. The evidence can't be excluded because you screwed up. Basically is what it is. Discovered after conviction, you weren't negligent in looking for it, and the evidence must be material to an issue in the case, and the evidence is not merely cumulative. You're not just repeating, you're just not adding to new evidence. It has to be clearly new and separate from other evidence that's already been raised at trial. The Sawinski evidence. Now here we go. This is taking a look. The motion now takes a look at the 4 requirements for using this evidence. The Sawinski evidence was discovered after Mr. Avery's conviction. Mr. Sawinski came forward to Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel in April of 2021. They attempted to contact the Innocence Project via email in 2016, but to no avail. And they'd previously provided it to the police office. It was reported to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office by Mr. Sawinski, but the evidence was suppressed from Mr. Avery by the prosecution. Well, you might ask, what happens if the police knew about it, but they didn't tell the prosecutor about it? Well, we'll get to that. Mr. Avery was not negligent in seeking evidence. Neither Mr. Avery nor his counsel were on notice that Mr. Sawinski had any knowledge about Bobby's actions on November 5th, 2005. They didn't know he saw it because they never heard about it until 2021. So it's not, if they would have known that Mr. Sawinski had any knowledge and they didn't do anything, then they wouldn't be able to bring the information in. And if they had known about Mr. Sawinski's involvement, or if he had any information, then they would have asked him. But they're saying we didn't know he had it, so we couldn't ask him. We're not negligent. And 3, the evidence is material to an issue in the Avery case. The Sawinski evidence is material to several issues in Mr. Avery's case. It's material for establishing Mr. Avery's defense, that is, a third party committed the crime against Ms. Halbach. That's the primary materiality of this evidence. It's evidence that the third party did it. It's material for establishing the direct link to Bobby as a third party Denny suspect, and to opening the door to reconsidering the Veli CD. Let's call it the CD because I don't want someone to yell at me for mispronouncing Veli or Valet or Vili or whatever the fuck this guy's name is. But the CD. This is the CD full of nasty, horrible, dirty, filthy, rotten shit they found on Danny's computer, on Bobby's computer, sorry. Yeah, they found some really vile shit on Bobby Dassey's computer. So they want that CD to be looked at again to establish a sexual motive for the murder. It's also material to the evidence in the RA in the RAV4 being planted by Bobby, including planting Mr. Avery's blood and DNA. The RAV4 also contained the Halbach vehicle key and Ms. Halbach's electronic devices, which were discovered in Mr. Avery's bedroom and burn barrel. Further, the Sawinski evidence is material to impeach Bobby's trial testimony. Basically, this is important to show that he lied, and Ms. Halbach never left the Avery that Ms. Halbach never left the Avery property. He testified that Halbach never left the property. Bobby was the state's primary witness. Bobby's testimony was most determinative of Mr. Avery's guilt. If Bobby hadn't testified, or if Bobby had testified differently, they're saying that the outcome would have been different. Now, here's the applicable law regarding the Denny information, which we've discussed at end, so I won't repeat it. When a defendant seeks to present evidence that a third party committed the crime for which the defendant is being tried, the defendant must show a legitimate tendency that the third party committed the crime. That's why the Denny test is also called the legitimate tendency test. In other words, that the third party had motive, opportunity, and direct connection to a crime. Okay, Denny was also a Wisconsin case. Okay, that's cool. The Supreme Court upheld it and everything. To support the introduction of third-party perpetrator evidence, there must be a legitimate tendency that the third person could have committed the crime. Again, they don't have to show that the third person actually did commit the crime. They just have to prove that, what does it say here? Could have committed the crime. The third party could have committed the crime. The defendant need not establish the guilt of the third party to the level that would be necessary to sustain a conviction. However, evidence that simply affords a possible ground of suspicion against another person should not be admissible. So that's the vagaries. That's the lines you kind of have to draw in these deals. You don't have to prove he did it, but you can't just say it's possible that there might be a suspicion that he could possibly have done this. You have to show that they could have committed it. Not that they might have, but that they could have committed it. And the legitimacy test asks whether the proffered evidence is so remote in time, place, or circumstances that a direct connection cannot be made between the third person and the crime. So let's look at how Denny requirements are satisfied by Bobby. What does this new evidence show about Bobby? A defendant's motive to commit a homicide is widely considered to be relevant. So if you can show that someone had a motive to commit it, that's pretty relevant to the issue of whether or not they did. And in this case, the law enforcement considered pornography as evidence of motive in Ms. Halbach's murder. The clear working theory of the investigators was that the murder of Ms. Halbach was motivated by SA. The Dassey computer was seized by law enforcement on April 21st, 2006. They got the Dassey family comp, and it was loaded with horrific shit. Evidence of Bobby's motive to commit Ms. Halbach's murder is contained on the hard drive of the Dassey computer, namely the material contained in the CD. All right, now we're getting into a little bit of trigger territory. If things about horrific violent acts and SA and things are kind of triggering, be alert. We're getting into some search terms and a little bit of descriptive wording here. So they run forensic tests and searches. The police do it as part of their I'm sure Rubio's dealt with it. We do what's called electronic discovery, where, it used to be turn over all these documents to us. Now it's turn over your hard drive, turn over evidence, and you lay out these, you search for this term, search this computer, and that computer for these particular search terms. And you'll say, okay, yeah, we want all emails, documents, memos, notes, whatever relating to search term this search, and you have a big long laundry list of things you want searched for, and the other side has to turn that over. But the police also do that in their investigations. They take your hard drive and they start searching. They start searching for terms. And in this case, what terms did they search for on the CD? These gives you just a number of some of the few things they searched for. Forensic examination of the Dassey computer selected the detective Ville, so that's why it's called the Ville or the Villi, whatever the hell you want to call it, CD. But the detective that made the CD selected specific words and conducted a search for these words. There were 2,632 results for words such as there was 2,083 search results for the term body, 10 for bullet, 23 for cement, 51 search term results for fire. Gun got you 75. Rav got you 74. Stab got you 32 results. Well, who used this computer? STEVEN Avery, did he use the computer? Did Brendan Dassey use the computer? Who the hell used this computer? Just searching for the search terms doesn't tell you who searched for these terms. So you have to start to whittle it down a little bit, and that's what we'll get into later. These selected words established a direct link between the specific evidentiary items related to the Halbach murder and the searches performed on the Dassey computer. The CD contains states recovered pornographic images relevant and material to the Halbach murder. They recovered 1,625 violent pornographic images which had been deleted. So 1,600 horrific pictures had been deleted and recovered. The recovered porn depicted violent images of the torture and mutilation of young females. Close your eyes, stick your fingers in your ears for the next 30 seconds if this is particularly triggering to you. This isn't where we get the laundry list. We get the laundry list a little bit later. Sorry. Brad Dassey. Enter another Dassey. We've got Brendan Dassey, who's in prison. And this is the family. This tells you they're a family of serial killers. This tells you they're a family of murderers. We've got Brad, Barb, Brian, Bobby, Blaine, and Brendan. We had a neighbors up the street that literally every one of the father, the mother, and all the children, the whole passel of children, they all started with R's. Anybody that's family, everybody in the family starts with the same letter, you're suspect in my book. That's not natural. Dashing Shadow Bolt, thank you so much. Bobby also saw this as a good way to get Brandon Dassey out from underfoot as well. Oh, absolutely, I believe. That is a very, very strong possibility. So, oh wow, let's look at the results are pretty surprising. Only 57% of you have seen the documentary. That means 43% of you have no background for this. I'm really happy and impressed that the 43% of you that have no idea really what the hell's going on are still paying attention to this. That's great. I'm hoping you're enjoying this. That should be the next poll question. If you haven't seen it, are you enjoying the stream? Let's do that one. If you, oops, shit, what have I just done? I've done something stupid because I'm a boomer. Okay, end poll. Boom. All right. That's it. 56% of you have seen it. 43 of you have not seen it. If you have not seen the Making a Murderer documentary, are you enjoying this stream? All right. Question, yes or no. So this is a poll only for those of you that have not seen the documentary. Moving right along. It's kind of a lame thing. If you didn't like it, you wouldn't be here to answer that question, would you? So, all right. They've deleted these 1,625 pictures that portray some really, really evil shit. And enter Brad Dassey. Brad is Barb's stepson and half-brother of Brian, Bobby, Blaine, and Brendan. And the only ones you really need to worry about here now are Brendan, who's in jail, Bobby, who is being the suspect now, and Brad, who joins the picture. So Brad Dassey avers that he had a conversation with Barb, his stepmom, in which she indicated that she had hired someone to remove evidence from Dassey's computer. So Brad is now ratting out Bobby and his stepmom. His uncle Steve, is in jail. Brother Bobby is in jail. Now Brad is ratting out other brother Bobby and stepmom Barb. This is a class family here, man. So Brad is coming and saying, hey, my mom said that she had hired someone to delete evidence from the computer. The authorities interviewed Brad after he reported this information, but he was not called as a witness by either side. Well, the new forensic examination of the Dassey computer corroborates the affidavit of Brad. So they did this forensic examination of the Dassey computer and found out that, well, by God, there were 8 times, 8 periods in 2005, close to the date of the murder, for which files are missing and presumably deleted from the Dassey computer. So conveniently, a lot of the stuff that was on that computer around the time of the murder was deleted and reportedly paid for deletion by Bobby's mom. And here it gives the dates where documents are missing. Noticeably, remember, the murder occurred on October 31st, 2005. There's gaps on October 23rd and 24th, and October 26th through November 7th, through November 2nd. The murder occurred right in the middle of this time period here. That's when the murder occurred. Right there in the middle of that time frame where documents were deleted from the computer. Oh, Valhalla awaits. Valhalla's making the argument I was hoping someone would make. It was a family computer. So, according to that, who could have used this computer? It's a family computer. It could have been Brad, Barb, Brian, Bobby, Blaine, Brendan. Steve Avery was the uncle. He could have been over there using the computer. Valhalla makes the interesting point, but the lawyers deal with that question in this motion. So let's keep moving on down here. This is the laundry list. This box here contains the laundry list of really horrific things that was on this disk that was deleted and recovered. So if descriptions of really horrible things trigger you, close your eyes and plug your ears and come back in 30 seconds. We'll be past it. You did not close the poll. Don't worry. Only 5% of you are not enjoying the stream. Well, what the fuck are you still doing here? I'm glad you're still here. Maybe you're here for the chat. Maybe you're here for my witty demeanor or my handsome looks. But for whatever reason, if you're not enjoying the stream and you're still here, great. We're happy to have you. All right, 30 seconds now for trigger warning. Go. The new forensic examination of Dassey's computer corroborated the affidavit of Brad. It detected 8 periods where the stuff was deleted. In reviewing images contained on the disk, Special Agent Thomas Fassbender made the following observations. Photographs of both Teresa Halbach and Steven Avery with an apparent date of April 18th, 2016. There were pictures of Teresa and pictures of Steven Avery on the disk. There were numerous images of nudity, both male and female, to include pornography. All right, okay, we've been doing this an hour and 27 minutes. Hopefully they'll give us a benefit of the doubt. The pornography included, horrific list starting now, both heterosexual, homosexual, and bestiality. There were images depicting bondage, as well as possible torture and pain. There were also text images with the name Emily. There were images depicting potential young females to include an infant defecating. There were images of injuries to humans, including a decapitated head, a badly injured and bloodied body, a bloody head injury, and a mutilated body. And the disk received from the detective, as well as the hard copy pages of instant messages, conversations were maintained in Special Agent Fassbender's possession. Scroll, scroll, scroll. So all of that horrible shit was recovered from the disk. That was stuff that had been deleted around the time of the murder. Yeah, Valhalla, wait, this isn't the search history. This is the delete. These were things that were deleted and recovered. Just because you hit that delete button, your shit's not gone. You have to get one of these military grade overwriting programs that deletes, overwrites, and deletes the same area of your disk about a bajillion times to make sure it's utterly unrecoverable. Even if you burn this shit in fire, we do this a lot when there's ship fires and things. You take out the computer, you take out the black box, and even though this thing is fire damaged and melted, you can still get some data off of it. So This is some horrific shit that would get on this computer. And as Valhalla Wade said, it was a family computer. Well, here we go. Let's talk about the family. Let's talk about the family that uses this computer. There's sufficient evidence that it was only Bobby who had access to the Dassey computer during the day, on weekends, approximately 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Barb's work schedule is from 6 a.m. to 4:30 every day, Monday through Thursday of every week. And we go down through here, Brendan and Blaine get picked up by the bus, what time they get on the bus, what time they get home from the bus, and Barb, Blaine, and Brendan, where they're not at home. And we narrow it down. We narrow it down by finding out when the deletions were made, when the searches were made, the internet searches in your browser history are made, the times they're made, and who is home at that time. So 128 searches for the most violent porn images primarily occurred on weekdays when only Bobby was in the Dassey residence. How's that sit with y'all? They go back to the search history and they determine that Bobby was the only one home when 128 of the searches for the most violent images were made. Well, it's also undisputed that Mr. Avery never accessed the Dassey computer. That's not speculation. That is undisputed fact. Nobody ever disputed that he had access to the computer. He did not have the password for the Dassey computer, nor did he possess a key to the Dassey residence, which was locked when no one was home. It's time to eat a cherry. Oops. Animal. So now we've narrowed down that a lot of this filthy internet shit is going on when Bobby's the only one home. Bobby testified that on October 31st, 2005, the day of the murder, he was the only person home between 6:30 a.m. when he says he left to go hunting and 2:45 p.m. Therefore, it's undisputed that Bobby was the only person home on October 31st when searches were made on the Dassey computer at 7 a.m., 9:30 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 1:51 p.m. prior to Ms. Halbach's arrival at the Avery salvage yard. Laser Doctor, thank you so much for the super chat. That's why Hillary used bleach bit. That's one of the things you can. And there's a lot of these like uber hyper deletion things, but even they leave their mark. These hyper deletion software things, they leave their mark and let people know that you hyper deleted shit. So it's one of those things where we don't see a black hole, but we know there's a black hole there by what's not there. So here we have Bobby Dassey searching for filthy, degenerate, horrific porn shit on the day of the murder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times during the course of the day before Ms. Halbach gets on the property. The timing of these internet searches on October 31 directly contradicts Bobby's trial testimony that on the day he was asleep from 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. So he testifies he's asleep the whole damn day, but he was the only one home. But well, his computer browser history seems to paint a different picture. Now, he also testified that the Dassey computer is located on a desk in the living room at the time. So when Bobby was asked if the Dassey computer was ever located in his bedroom, he said it was not. However, Bobby's statement is directly contradicted by the crime scene footage taken by Sergeant Tyson on November 12, 2005, a month after, like 2 weeks after the murder, which shows the Dassey computer was located in Bobby's bedroom. He lied. Bobby's statements are further contradicted by his brother Blaine. So now enter brother Blaine into the picture. All of the Dasseys are ratting on each other here. Brother Blaine makes a cameo here, who stated in his affidavit to current post. So again, this is brother Blaine So we've got oh, for fuck's sake. So it was a who was the Dassey brother? I've got my Dasseys confused. Brad. Yeah, so Brad is the one that said, "Oh, you know, this is the deal here." So Brad was the brother that came forward and said, "Oh, they told me to delete this shit," or they told me that they had paid someone to delete this shit. Then Bobby, the other brother, comes and gives an affidavit in support of Stephen Avery and against his brother. What does brother Brad say? Blaine, I mean, brother Blaine. Bobby's statements are further contradicted by his brother Blaine, who stated in his affidavit to the current counsel that on 25 June 2018 that the Dassey computer was located in Bobby's room and Bobby was the primary user of it. Well, Wisconsin statute provides that evidence of other crimes and or wrongs or acts when offered as proof of motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, identity, or absence of mistake or accident is admissible. So what they're saying is the depicted acts in the violent pornography that Bobby was viewing are sufficiently similar to the murder of Ms. Halbach. So that is Avery's lawyers, one of their main contentions, that Bobby lied about he lied about being, not looking at the porn. He lied about where the computer was. But on the day of the killing, early in the morning of the killing, he was seen by someone else pushing a car onto the lot, pushing Halbach's car onto the Avery lot. Then he went home and apparently started looking up some really nasty shit on the internet. And later that day, she shows up and dies. So they're arguing that these pictures that he was searching for are sufficiently close to what happened to Ms. Halbach that it establishes a motive. Lovely, isn't it? Oh, Bubba Smith, you did not just say as long as they have someone in prison, case closed. Oh, you did not say that. Wait till it's you in prison for some reason and see how case closed it is. That statement triggers me. And again, we have reference to the 1,625 previously deleted but recovered images of violent pornography could have established a motive for the trial defense counsel's Denny motion. We need a wait for this to come up. So here we go. Yeah. Rubia, need a flow chart of names. Thank you so much for the super chat. We do, and it would be easy if they weren't all B's, but Bobby, Blaine, Brad, Barbara, Brendan, they're all B's. My dog stepped on a bee. All right, sorry about that. So all right, so they're saying that these deleted pictures and the searches that were conducted on the morning of the murder are sufficient to prove motive in this murder. And Mr. Avery's homicide expert, Ann Burgess, PhD, says there's a well-known established causal connection between pornography consumption and violent behavior. A former FBI agent and police procedure expert, Greg McCrary, he says, in his opinion, that Bobby Dassey was becoming obsessively deviant in his viewing of violent pornography in the weeks before Ms. Halbach's murder. So there we see the progression of what he is searching for and looking at and consuming becoming obsessively deviant as things go along in the weeks before the murder. Are we establishing some motive? Are we establishing a history or a prediction of the future? Bobby's opportunity we've got the motive down. Now we've got the opportunity. He had a motive to do it because he's been consuming this horrific pornography for God knows how long, and he's lying about it. Now, did he have the opportunity to commit the murder of Teresa Halbach? Well, apparently the answer is yes. If you are Avery's lawyer. The second prong of the Denny test asks, could the alleged third-party perpetrator have committed the crime directly or indirectly? Well, they're saying yes. It's incumbent on the proponent, however, it's incumbent on Mr. Avery to show the relevance of the opportunity evidence. So you can say, well, here's evidence that he had the opportunity, but how is that related to the actual crime? Well, according to the trial court, Mr. Avery's trial defense counsel has already established that Bobby had the opportunity to commit the murder. Now, Mr. Sawinski, who, as you know, saw him allegedly pushing this car onto the lot, his evidence greatly strengthens the opportunity argument because Bobby was in possession of her vehicle where her murder likely occurred. So they've got that. And Bobby had access to items of evidence to frame Mr. Avery. The Sawinski evidence that Bobby was in possession of Ms. Halbach's vehicle provides the opportunity or access to items that were used in the frame-up. Okay, he had access to the vehicle because he was pushing it down the road. Bobby had access to Mr. Avery's blood. This is interesting. Mr. Avery told law enforcement in a recorded interview that his finger, which had been cut prior to October 31st, had reopened and rebled on November 3rd. 2 days before the vehicle and blood were found, and it had dripped blood in his bathroom sink and on the bathroom floor. He voluntarily told the police this. And Raleigh Johnson, the owner of Mr. Avery's trailer, testified that he observed the cut on Mr. Avery's finger prior to that date. And he argues that the blood that was planted by Bobby in the vehicle came from the blood that had dripped into the sink. Mr. Avery's claim that he bled into his bathroom sink and on the floor was corroborated by the fact that law enforcement found some of his blood around the bathroom sink and on his bathroom floor. And Bubba Smith says, okay, he's sounding guilty as. Well, let's play devil's advocate to your comment there. If he did cut himself in the process of committing a murder and he's bleeding all over his sink and the floor, and he's getting it in his car, would you tell the police that, or would you let them find it for themselves? But also, if he is hiding the body and hiding the car, he's got all this blood in his sink, all this blood on his floor, all this blood in his own car, but in her car, I believe it was 3 small drops of his blood. If he's bleeding all over the place everywhere else, why wasn't he bleeding all over in her car when he's hiding it and whatnot? So that's some food. That's some food for thought. And we got some other irrelevant stuff here where he talks about the blood and what he told the police. Now, Bobby's direct link to the murder of Ms. Halbach. This is where we need to establish that there is some relationship. There's some link between the third party suspect and the actual murder. The third and final prong of the Denny test asks whether there is evidence that the alleged third-party perpetrator actually committed the crime directly or indirectly. Is there any evidence that ties Bobby to the murder of Teresa Halbach? The Sawinski evidence demonstrates that Bobby could have committed the murder because he's in possession of Ms. Halbach's vehicle where the murder likely occurred, as evidenced by Ms. Halbach's blood in the vehicle. The new evidence that Ms. Halbach's vehicle was returned to the Avery salvage yard from a different location is corroborated by the fact that a witness saw a vehicle similar to Halbach's leave the property on October 31st. Remember, Bobby said that she never left the property, but a witness saw her leave the property on the day of the murder. This is Mr. Lurquin, a propane driver, testified that he saw a green mid-sized SUV leaving the salvage yard, driving towards Highway 147 between 3:30 and 4 p.m. He informed, and again, This is someone else. He told law enforcement about this when he was stopped at a roadblock a few days later and had heard about the news of Ms. Halbach being missing. Again, this is just another guy going about his way that gets stopped at a roadblock and says, oh yeah, that chick that's missing, yeah, that's what this is all about. I saw a truck that looked exactly like hers leaving the property in the afternoon of the 31st. This isn't to someone that that Steve Avery's team just paid to make up shit suddenly. He told the police about this a few days after she went missing. Further, it's corroborated by Bobby's brother Blaine's account. Say that. God, what was that? Say that 3 times fast. Bobby's brother Blaine's account provided Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel with an affidavit attesting on October 31, 2005, when his high school bus driver brought Brandon and me. Again, this is Blaine. Now, Blaine is throwing Bobby under the bus. Literally, the school bus. When the school bus driver brought Brandon and me home as we traveled west, I saw Bobby on Highway 147 in a bluish or greenish vehicle heading towards Mishicot. Bobby was not driving his black Blazer. Bobby was not home the rest of the evening while I was home. I like that when these people speak in small 1-syllable words or 2 syllables at most. So Bobby's driving a vehicle that matches the murder victims. He's not driving his black Blazer, and he didn't come home that night. Bobby's trial testimony contradicts Blaine's affidavit because Bobby testifies that he was home at 5 p.m. Bobby was with Michael Osmundson when Ms. Halbach's vehicle was discovered on November 5, 2005. Now, the current lawyer's investigator met with and interviewed Osmundson about whether he was the individual with Bobby, because remember, Sawinski said he saw Bobby and some other unidentified guy pushing this car. So Stephen Avery's their investigator goes and talks to this Osmundson and said, were you the guy that was pushing this car? Why did they ask him? Because Osmundson fit the height, weight, and beard description provided by Mr. Sawinski about the individual helping Bobby push the car. When Osmundson was asked if he was the individual who helped Bobby push the vehicle on the Avery property on November 5, Osmundson responded that he could not remember if he was the individual. If someone asks you, were you the person that was pushing the vehicle of a murder victim together with someone who is the murder suspect, and you answer, I don't remember if I was pushing a murdered person's vehicle with a murder suspect, you did it. Again, I know Ruby hates generalizations, but if someone says, I don't remember pushing a murder victim's car with a person suspected of committing the murder, you probably did. I think that's something you would either remember doing or remember not doing. Well, the beard description was long, bushy, white beard, something like that. It wasn't me. It was a short beard. And that's why they're saying it couldn't have been Stephen Avery, because he had a short beard at that point in time. Well, so we've got Bobby doing some fuckery, and I'm leaning towards the view that Osmundson was probably the other person. Because again, yeah, Sunshinery says, she would remember pushing a car. And I'm pretty sure he would remember pushing a car if it matched the description of a murdered person. And you're asked if you were doing it with a person who very may well have been the murderer. Ruby says, I only hate generalizations that sound like all women, all men, all races. Well, my generation is all people that say they don't remember pushing a murder victim's car with a murder suspect are probably the person that did it. Well, all righty. Prosecutor Kratz, he was an asshole too. If you've seen the documentary, he's a shady fuck too. He was grandstanding. He was looking for political office. He was a dick. He was the biggest asshole to me in the entire series. But anyway, he asked Bobby, no, Bobby, on the 3rd of November, that would be a Thursday, I believe. Do you recall having a conversation with your Uncle Stephen regarding a body? And Bobby responded, yes. Under cross-examination, Bobby testified that Mr. Avery stated that his remark about getting rid of a body was in jest on November 3rd, 2005, when he and Osmundson were in the garage. However, Osmundson told law enforcement that Mr. Avery made such a statement to him on Thursday, November 10th. So we have young Master Bobby saying that, he joked about getting rid of a body on November 3rd, which was 2 days before the body was found. Well, before the car was found. But the other guy that was there said, no, that was a week later on November 10th after everything had been found. Patty LB 1211 said Bobby was sleeping, but knew she never left that day. Well, I think he said he was asleep till 2:30 and she showed up at some point after that. But of course, from what we've just seen, we know he wasn't sleeping. He was up searching for horrific porn on the internet. But thank you so much, Patty, for that super chat. That's a very good point. You lie, you get caught. And so now Osmundson is saying that, oh no, that conversation where he was talking about hiding a body was a week later than Bobby's trying to say it was. And why does he remember it being a week later? Because that was the only time he was at the Dassey residence between the date of the murder and November 11th. MG Law says, what is it about Wisconsin and shady-ass prosecutors? Avery, Rittenhouse. Wonder who else has been wrongfully prosecuted. There's some shady-ass prosecutors everywhere. I'm just going to say that. There's some shady-ass prosecutors. You want to hear the truth about prosecutors? Ask an ex-prosecutor. Ask someone who was a prosecutor, grew a conscience, and became a defense lawyer or became a judge. The shady fucks, they run for office. Just saying. We just read that one. Sorry. Okay. So remarkable. Now remember the date, November 5th, when things were found. I told you that at the beginning. Remarkably, Osmundson stated to law enforcement that he first learned about the missing girl on Tuesday, November 1st, yet she had not been reported missing until when? What was the date of the beginning? November 3rd. How's that for some shady fuckery, huh? He remembers learning about the missing girl on Tuesday, November 1st, 2 days before anyone else knew she was missing. Yep. How's that for some sus shit? Well, yeah, I remember hearing on November 1st she was missing. Well, gee, that was 2 days before anybody else knew she was missing. Osmundson, who matches the description of someone who was allegedly pushing the murder car with the alleged murderer the day before you said you remember you learned of her going missing. Yep. Oh, Dash, you're kind of starting to get close to what I think is the truth here. Whenever LV says shady, I'm thinking trees. No wonder Avery went to jail. Bobby the murderer sets up Avery, and prosecutors use him as a witness. And why would they set up Avery? Because he was bringing a $36 million lawsuit against the county and some county officials that was not covered by insurance. For the previous time they fucked him up and sent him to jail for 18 years for a crime he didn't commit. Oh, there's some serious motivation for some fuckery going here. Jeff just sounded like Cookie Monster. What?
Cookie.
Why don't it sound like Cookie Monster? I don't even know what that means.
Me go Cookie. Bobby phone record reflect that October 30.
That's more like, well, I was going to say that's more like Yoda than Cookie Monster, but they were both Frank Oz back in the day. So Cookie Monster and Yoda are essentially the same person. Okay, nerding done. I tucked my mustache a lot. I need to keep it groomed. All right. Osmondson and Bobby, again, remember this is sus as shit because he said that he first learned the girl went missing 2 days before anybody else knew she was missing. Osmondson and Bobby were either suspiciously, and this is some serious fuckery here too. As long as we're talking about fuckery, let's go more and further down the fuckery hole. That sounded bad, didn't it? The fuckery hole. All right. Yeah, that's a clip. Further, the record reveals that Osmondson and Bobby were either suspiciously calling each other repeatedly or with each other at relevant times after Ms. Halbach's murder. Bobby's phone records reflect that on October 31, 2005, that's the day of the murder, 7 phone calls between Bobby and Osmondson occurring between the following times in the morning and evening: 6:12 a.m., 6:36 a.m., 3:56 p.m., 3:57 p.m., 4:53 p.m., 5:10 p.m., and 6:01 p.m. And remember, this 3:57 to 6:01, that was right about the time the murder was allegedly committed. Now, 2 men, I don't know about women. I don't know what your phone habits are, women, but 2 heterosexual men do not do what these guys did ever, unless they're up to some nefarious, unsavory shit. What did they do that's unsavory and nefarious unless you're in a relationship with each other? Bobby's phone records reveal that Bobby called Osmondson a total of 66 times between October 24th to November 9. So basically they called each other Bobby called Osmondson 66 times in a 2-week period. We don't know how many times Osmondson called Bobby, but I can tell you that to the best of my knowledge, my longest and most dearest friend on planet Earth, I have never called him 66 times cumulative over the entire 53 years of my life. X Homer Triple Z, thank you so much for the super sticker. It's it looks like a commando hippo jacking off. That's cool. Oh, I should have waited 2 minutes to say that. But yes, anyway. Yeah. So think about that a little bit. Cheryl Magdalena, thank you so much. Great live today. I've been watching this case since the beginning. Kathleen Zellner is a pit bull when it comes to wrongful convictions. Thanks, Jeff. And yeah, and again, I'll remind you that she said that was the one thing she told Steve Avery before taking on this case. If you did it, I'll find out. And she's still with him. So to the best of my knowledge, that means she still thinks that he didn't do this. So, okay, guys. Men out there. This is a poll for the men. Men. But let's have a poll for the men. Men, : have you ever called another man 66 times in 2 weeks? ? Yes, no. Ask your community. Okay. There you go. Poll is up for you men in the audience here. Have you ever called another man 66 times in 2 weeks? As I said, I'm just thinking of my dearest and closest friends on planet Earth. my longest friends. I don't think I have ever called them a cumulative of 66 times my entire goddamn life. So, guys, that's sus as fuck. And we've hit the 2-hour mark. Oh, not yet. We've still got 3 seconds. 2, 1. Yay, we're at the 2-hour mark. Now we can unleash the vices. Yeah, see, that's why, you know, currently hyperfixated says, give us women that poll. I want to see women. I know you call each other 66 times a goddamn day, and you call your boyfriends about 128 times a day. I know all that shit. I just wanted to raise the point about the men. So Rubia, all women call their friends at least 66 times a day. How's that for a generalization? All right, Electrobeard. Cool. I think Halbach's brother had something to do with it. Well, that's interesting. I've never looked into the brother doing it. To her brother have. Why would her brother have something to do with it? That's odd. Okay. The 6% that said yes. Okay, yeah. Okay, that was the mistake. All right. I'm going to end this poll and we're going to redo this again. Let's end the poll. Great. Heterosexual men. Heterosexual men. Have you ever called another man 66 times? I was thinking about that when I originally put up the poll, that I should have specified men who are not in relationships with each other. I've called another man 66 times in 2 weeks. There we go. Question mark. So yeah, I mean, if you're in a relationship with someone, there's a very good chance that you've called them 66 times in 2 weeks. But if you're just a straight, normal, heterosexual man, have you ever called another man 66 times in 2 weeks? Oh, wait, we've still got people saying yes. Wait, we have more people saying yes than said yes last time. Whatever. Kiernoth, I doubt it. Dear God, no, says Boom Her. Lots of people know. I only text really. Yeah. So yeah. Getting back to the affidavit, the motion here. So they called Bobby, and this is only how many times Bobby called Osmundson. There's no indication how many times Osmundson called Bobby during that same period. But Bobby called Osmundson a total of 66 times in the week before and the week after the murder. The Sawinski evidence is newly discovered and directly links Bobby to Ms. Halbach's murder because, as previously stated, the RAV4 was a key piece of evidence in her murder. The evidence is not cumulative. The Sawinski evidence provides for the first time the missing, because remember that was the deal. They said, okay, you may have proven evidence and you may have proven motive, you may have proven the opportunity, but this, they said they rejected the motion because there was no direct evidence connecting him to the murder. Well, the Sawinski evidence provides for the first time the missing direct connection to Bobby as a third-party suspect for Ms. Halbach's murder and is therefore not cumulative. This is not evidence that's just piling up. It's not the same thing repeated. There's reasonable doubt as to Mr. Avery's guilt. Now, if you satisfy all 4 criteria of newly discovered evidence, which was what? It had to become after the conviction, it can't be cumulative, and the other 2, which I just can't even be bothered to remember right now. But even if you discover all 4, if you meet all 4 of the criteria for that test of newly discovered evidence, the reviewing court looks at it, the reviewing court examines it and decides whether it is reasonably probable that if the jury had heard the newly discovered evidence, it would have had a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt. I mean, if your new evidence is that there was a stamped envelope in the neighbor's mailbox across the street, okay, that may be some sort of new evidence, but the court's going to go, even if people knew about the mailbox across the street, it wouldn't have raised any reasonable doubt about the defendant's guilt. You still have to show that this new evidence would it would be reasonably probable that if the jury had heard about this evidence at the time of the trial, they would have had a reasonable doubt about the defendant's guilt. So she argues here in the motion that if Bobby is established as a viable third-party Denny suspect, the forensic evidence in this case is completely undermined. The newly discovered evidence that Bobby was in possession of her vehicle, of Ms. Halbach's vehicle, means he had the opportunity and access to plant evidence in the vehicle from the vehicle. Because Bobby had been directly linked to the murder of Ms. Halbach, there is a reasonable inference that he planted the bones of Mr. Avery in Mr. Avery's burn pit. This new evidence creates a reasonable probability that had the jury heard the new evidence, it would have had a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt. Therefore, Mr. Avery should be granted a new trial. Now we're talking, the next section deals with the Brady violation of the Sawinski evidence, which is what we were talking about. This is the fuckery of the prosecution in not revealing the evidence, not turning over this evidence that they had, that Mr. Sawinski had called them within a couple of days after the disappearance to tell them, and again had called them on the morning of the day the vehicle was found and told them that he saw Bobby and somebody else pushing the car. That was the fuckery. The prosecutor did not turn that information over to Avery's lawyers. And this is a violation. This is what they're investigating. They're investigating that violation of the so-called Brady rule. So in May of 2022, Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel, that's just, her, they received previously suppressed Sawinski call to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office. So they got a partial recording that was just basically, there was nothing important in the telephone call. It was just a partial recording. So in May of 2022, Mr. Avery's current counsel received the previously suppressed Sawinski call to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office, which contained a partial recording of the suppressed call to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office on November 6th, 2005, which was the day after the body was found. So the day after the body is found, he calls the police to tell them that he saw someone pushing the vehicle down the road. He saw Bobby and somebody else pushing the vehicle towards where the body was found the day before. And that's when they said, well, we already know who did it. So then they have attached here and incorporated as Exhibit D is a track timestamp from the disclosure. So basically they're saying, and it said, okay, Ms. Novak, her name is Devin. This is a girl named Devin. That's kind of sus right there. But anyway, Mr. Sawinski's ex-girlfriend corroborated Mr. Sawinski's account of what he had witnessed and what he had relayed to the law enforcement. And she also recognized his voice in the call, in the clip of the recording that was made on November 6th. So she said, yes, that was him calling the police, and I remember what he said. So the recording of Mr. Sawinski's call. Now, remember, I asked earlier, what happens if you can say the prosecutor did not give me this recording? What happens if the prosecutor says, I didn't give it to them because the police didn't tell me about it? The police had this information. They didn't give it to me. So of course I couldn't give it to the defense. What happens in that situation? The recording of Mr. Sawinski's call was never disclosed by the state to Mr. Avery's trial defense counsel prior to or during the trial. Pre-trial defense counsel made two specific requests pursuant to Wisconsin law for all exculpatory evidence and or information within the possession, knowledge, or control of the state. You don't ask for, what does the prosecutor have? You ask what the state, because it's the state versus Avery. It's the state of Wisconsin. It's not the prosecutor against Wisconsin. It's not the police against Wisconsin. It is the state. I mean, it's not the prosecutor against Avery. It's not the police against Avery. It is the state of Wisconsin against Avery. And you say in your requests for information, we want everything you have in the state's possession that proves or gives evidence to the fact that my defendant did not commit this crime. All of the evidence that exculpates him in the state's possession, in the control of the knowledge, possession, and control of the state, which would tend to negate the guilt of the defendant, or which would tend to affect the weight and credibility of the evidence used against the defendant, including any inconsistent statements. So in Brady, the Supreme Court held that the prosecution violates an accused constitutional right of due process of law by failing to disclose evidence favorable to the defense in Brady v. Maryland. This rule encompasses evidence known to police investigators, but not the prosecutor. So that answers that question. The prosecutor just can't say, oh, the police didn't tell me. The police didn't tell me this evidence existed. I didn't know. So I didn't do anything wrong. No, the person who has the quote person that has the duty to turn over this evidence is the state. The prosecutor works for the state. The police work for the state. The state has the duty to turn over the evidence. If the prosecutor doesn't know, but the police have the evidence, it is still a violation of the Brady rule that requires you, as part of protecting the constitutional right of due process to a defendant, to disclose all evidence, even evidence that's not favorable to your prosecution. Doc McFuzzball, I'm very chatty hetero man, usually hang with women because they love to talk and are better at it better at it than the average guy. I haven't called a woman 66 times in 2 weeks unless I was trying to get with her or was already married to her. Exactly. Okay, I'm surprised. We're at the end of the we'll close down this particular poll here. 12% of you still said yes, you've called another heterosexual male 66 times in 2 weeks. Only 88% of you said no. Huh. I'm surprised by that. Okay. Huh. All right. Brendan Lesko, thank you so much for your super chat. Stephen Avery's barbecue parties were to die for. Absolutely killer. I'm so hungover. Please pray for me. Okay. Yeah. You degenerate. All righty. Well, back to this. So if the police has something and the prosecutor doesn't have it and they still don't turn it over, that is still a violation of your constitutional right to due process. So to establish that under there's a Brady violation, or that there is a violation of your constitutional right to due process under the Constitution of the United States, the defendant must demonstrate that 1, the prosecution actually suppressed evidence, 2, that the evidence was favorable to the defense, and 3, the evidence was material to an issue at trial. I mean, if they suppress it and if the evidence is favorable to the defense, then great. But if it's not related to the trial, then it doesn't matter. I have to send a very, very quick text here. Sorry to interrupt the show. Like and subscribe while I'm sending this quick text here. Okay. There we go. I'm back. Did anybody like and subscribe while I was gone? Probably not. So you have to demonstrate that the prosecution suppressed it, that the evidence is favorable, and that the evidence is material to something that's being argued at trial. It's clear the state never disclosed the Sawinski evidence or the Sawinski call to Mr. Avery's counsel. 1 is demonstrated clearly. They had it. The police knew about it. The police said, oh, we already know who did it. The police knew they had this fucking evidence. They didn't turn it over. Prong 1 of that test clearly met. Now, was the evidence favorable to the defense? Well, clearly the evidence was favorable. that we saw someone else pushing the murdered person's vehicle onto the lot when the person who was pushing it said that they never left the lot. The person never left the lot. They were asleep, yada, yada, yada. That is clearly favorable to Avery. So anyway, you can't negligently not find the evidence. So Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel made diligent efforts to find any and all information regarding the evidence. So again, that's one thing you can't remember back when we said if there was post-conviction, it had to be post-conviction new evidence, and you couldn't have acted negligently in not searching for this evidence. And so here they're saying that they weren't negligent in not searching. They didn't negligently search for this information. They tried desperately to get this information, but the police never turned it over. The police suppressed it. The state suppressed it. So they said that they made diligent efforts to obtain any and all information regarding the Sawinski evidence, including re-requesting all incoming calls to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office from the relevant time period. The following timeline illustrates the diligence demonstrated by Mr. Avery's lawyers in investigating and corroborating the evidence that Mr. Sawinski provided to the Sheriff's Office. This is all of the times that they tried to get evidence from the state regarding the Sawinski call, and it's a long ass list. All these things here. I mean, these are all the dates and all the things they did. The one thing that sticks out here to me, there's like two things. May 3rd, 2022. This is very, 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 very recent. In response to Mr. Avery's current post-conviction counsel's March 15th public records request through its investigator. And again, remember, this is just not too long after he came forward and said, hey, I tried to get a hold of a bunch of people and nobody ever passed anything along. So for the first time, this was in May 3rd of this year, was the first time that the time and date of the phone calls were revealed by the state to the defense witnesses. I mean, to the defense counsel. May 3rd of this year, when this happened in 2005, nearly 20 years later, 17 years later, is the first time we learn when these phone calls were made to the police. August 6th. How long ago was August 6th, people? August 6th was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Avery's investigator, Stephen Kirby, met with Mr. Sawinski's former girlfriend, and she provided Mr. Avery's lawyers with an affidavit regarding her voice identification and her recollection of being with Mr. Sawinski when he placed the November 6th call. So just now, this stuff is coming to light because of the fuckery of the state in keeping it suppressed, in not revealing it, when this should have been announced. This should have been investigated. It should have been taken care of back in 2005, but it was not. The suppressed evidence must be material. That's the last part of the test here. The evidence is material only if there is a reasonable probability that had the evidence been disclosed to the defense, the result of the proceedings would have been different. Well, in this case, the question is not whether the defendant would more likely than not have received a different verdict. It's not, if we did this, would they have got a different verdict? That's not the question. The question is whether the absence of the evidence created an unfair trial. Whether the fact they didn't even have a chance to present this evidence to the jury resulted in an unfair trial. Mr. Avery's conviction for first-degree intentional homicide was in large part based on trial defense counsel's unsuccessful efforts to name a third-party suspect. The Sawinski evidence meets the Danny requirements and makes Bobby a third-party Denny suspect in the murder of Ms. Halbach. And that, I think we're right down at the end. Yeah, we got a couple more points here. Because the Sawinski evidence was suppressed, trial defense counsel was not able to establish Bobby as a third-party Denny suspect or impeach Bobby's trial testimony as the state's primary witness. People don't like my highlighting. Well, fine. Too bad. And now we have an affidavit here, a second Brady violation, a second bit of fuckery from the police. Kevin Ramlow, Mr. Ramlow, came forth to Mr. Avery's current lawyers with new information in July of 2017. Mr. Ramlow, we'll call him Mr. Ramlow, described observing Ms. Halbach's RAV for her RAV4 parked at the turnaround on State Highway 147 at the East Twin River Bridge on November 3rd and November 4th. She disappeared. She was murdered apparently on Halloween. She was reported missing on November 3rd. The car was found on the Avery lot on November 5. This is a guy, Brendan Lesko, thank you so much. This is to practice your highlighting skills. We get this man justice with poor highlighting. Hashtag free Stephen Avery. Hey, this is not me. This is digital highlighting. I'm doing my best with a mouse. So there you go. So Mr. Ramlow, he steps forward and says, I saw her car the day before and 2 days before it was discovered on the lot. 3 days after she was murdered, I saw it on the turnaround on State Highway 147. So he reported this. He reported this to where? To the police. How is that? More police fuckery. Did not turn this over. In his affidavit, he reported his observations to a Manawak Sheriff's deputy he encountered on November 4th. So November 4th, he comes and says, oh, yesterday and today, I saw this car parked over there on State Highway. The next day, the other guy, whose name starts with an S, that just Sawinski. The next day after this was reported, Sawinski says, I saw that little fucker, Bobby, pushing the car back onto the lot. Within 2 days, they have two different people putting that car somewhere else other than the Avery car lot, other than the Avery salvage yard. One guy says, I saw it for 2 days down here. The morning it's found, the guy says, no, I saw that being pushed down there that morning. But what happens? No law enforcement report was ever generated by the Manawak Sheriff's deputy memorializing or recording the conversation between Mr. Ramlow and his deputy. He called and said, I saw this car there for 2 days, and they never put it in the file. When someone called the next day and said, I saw Bobby pushing the car onto the lot, they said, no, we're all good. We know who did it. Not necessary. And that is the end of this. So that's basically the grounds for how and why they're asking for a new trial. There's new evidence. It's relevant to what's going on. The police improperly violated his rights by not releasing the information. The jury never heard it. They're asking that they have a new trial and let the jury hear this new evidence suggesting that Bobby may have been the one who murdered it. Let them hear it and see if they have reasonable doubt. There's a couple of points here in the attachments that I wanted to look at too. Okay, this is the search warrant. This is what they found on the computer. A lot of what we go back here, they found. God, I hate people and their horrific grammar and stuff. This is stuff they found on the computer. There was an instant message conversation between Dassey and an individual using the screen name Junior Mafia Nices. Bitches everywhere where I look, there is bitches. Julie, I love you to death. Believed to be Travis Fabian. During said conversation, Dassey asked Fabian if he thought Stephen was guilty, and Fabian responded, IDK, for I don't know. Fabian then asked Dassey if he felt Avery was guilty. Dassey, this is Bobby, by the way, responded, yeah. Emily asked that to me. Fabian asked what Dassey said, and Dassey wrote yeah or yeah, and Fabian repeated, you said yeah, he's guilty. February 28th, October, November, December, January, like 4 months after, there's an instant message conversation between Dassey and an individual with the screen name. Friendship is long lost love that you wish you'll be able to overcome. Believed to be Mary Avery. During the conversation, Dassey asked Mary Avery if she thought Stephen was guilty, and Mary Avery responded, yes. Finity. Not infinity. Yes, finity. I love you too, finity. Dassey then wrote, so So do I know of the evidence they got, or so do I now of the evidence they got? Anyway, in reviewing the images contained on the disc marked final report, Fassbender made the following observations. Photographs of both Teresa Hallback and Stephen Avery with an apparent date of April 18th, 2006. And then we go through all of the porno images, bestiality, whatnot. There were images depicting bondage as well as possible torture and pain. There were also text messages with the name Emily, and we saw Emily. He was talking to her about that up there. Potentially young females, blah, 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 injuries to humans. So all of this is still is included in the police report, but they never thought that this guy would be crazy. And then there's a few affidavits that I don't think there's anything else. Oh yeah. Okay. This is Devin Novak, who was Sawinski's girlfriend at the time. I was in a relationship with Thomas Sawinski at the time. When it became known Teresa Hallback was missing, Thomas Sawinski provided me with information of an unusual nature relating to the case. One morning after his paper route, during the week that Miss Hallback disappeared, Mr. Sawinski told me the following event had occurred. He had been delivering papers. He saw two men pushing a car down the road. The men gave him dirty looks. Later, while watching the news, Mr. Sawinski saw Miss Hallback's car and realized it was the same car that the men were pushing down a road. And then he goes on to tell the police, and the police didn't do shit about it. So she's corroborating the fact he called the police. The police have a partial audio recording of him calling, and they didn't do it. This is the transcript from the call. It's just basically, can I speak to the commander? I've got stuff to do. I'm going to transfer to commander, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's lots and lots and lots of evidence here. And this is his own testimony here. I was delivering papers. It's basically the same thing. We went, he saw Bobby Dassey and another unidentified older male pushing a blue RAV4 down the Avery Road on the right side towards the junkyard. Bobby Dassey was shirtless, even though it was early November. The second man appeared to be in his 50s or 60s, had a long gray beard, was wearing a worn puffy jacket, had a larger frame, and was around 6 feet in height. So that they're saying that Osmondson matched that description. He felt afraid. He said the paperboy got to go because he was afraid for his safety. He wasn't happy to see me there. After I learned that Teresa Hallback's car was found on November 5, that was the same day this happened, I contacted the Manawak Sheriff's Office and spoke to a female officer. I reported everything I have stated in this affidavit to the officer. The officer said, quote, "We already know who did it." I provided my phone number and they said they would contact me. I never heard back from the police. After watching season 1 of Making a Murderer, I contacted Avery's trial attorneys to inform them what I saw. I never heard back. Again, at the beginning, he said that he thought he'd contacted them, but it was actually the Innocence Project. He commented. He informed, and the Innocence Project never related. And nothing was promised or given to me in response for this evidence. So yeah, that's I believe that is the last of the relevant information. This is all repetitive stuff that's just copied and pasted like they always do in court motions. So that is the newest development in this case. That's the newest development we've got going here in the Making a Murderer incident, where his lawyer has put forward this new motion based on new evidence that that Bobby Dassey is possibly the person who actually committed the murder, and that the police suppressed evidence to support that theory. So they want a new trial. They want a new trial to put this information and evidence in front of a new jury and see whether or not they will still convict him. We've got Brendan Lesko. Thank you so much again. Bestiality. Yeah, I'm not sure that's an upgrade in Adobe, but you most certainly can get better highlighting tool in Adobe Acrobat Reader. Don't spend this on booze. Thanks. Yeah, it's all free highlighting software from me, baby. I'm spending that right on the booze. You know me. So there you go. Well, someone asks, why push it? Kel Bornigan says, why push it? Why not drive it? You push it, it doesn't make any noise, would be the first thing I would think of. Doesn't make any noise. You don't need the lights on. Stealth push. One possible solution. Malort. Yeah, ain't going on Malort. Sorry. So, all right. What do y'all think? Last poll for the day here. We'll do a very quick poll. Does this new submission change your opinion on guilt or innocence? Wow, I'm a lawyer and I can't even spell innocence correctly. There we go. All right. I don't want to add an option, dumbass. There we go. So, does this affect your decision one way or the other? Oh, this is interesting. News says I switched from don't know to thinking he's guilty. Okay. That's interesting. So that turnaround in East Twin is less than a mile from Avery's. Yet Dick Saucer lives in the hood, so Dick Saucer is aware. Nope. I believed him to be innocent. No change, but needs a new trial. See, this is a legitimate answer. That's a legitimate answer. I haven't changed even if you think he's guilty, you can still think that was fuckery on behalf of the prosecution and he needs a new trial. If you're going to prove someone guilty, prove them guilty right. Prove them guilty honestly. Don't withhold information. Don't suppress information. Don't hide shit. Don't commit fuckery. Don't do shit like they did in the O.J. Simpson trial and know you've got him pinned, and then you decide to make evidence a little more convenient. You decide to make things look a little bit better just to cross your T's and dot your I's, and then you end up fucking yourself. No, do it right. Do it fair from the beginning. So I think that is a very, very legitimate answer. Even if you think he's guilty, you can still think that he needs a new trial because it was unfair, it was biased, it was prejudiced, and it violated his constitutional rights. Remember, your constitutional rights can be violated at any time by the authorities. They can arrest you on something. That's why it freaks me out, all this shit you're seeing on Twitter and things going around now talking about Trump and whatnot. Yeah, if you're innocent, there's no reason to plead the fifth. If you plead the fifth, that just means you're guilty. No, it just means the state has the obligation of proving. You don't self-snitch. Even if you're not guilty of doing something, you have a right not to answer fucking questions. You have a right to insist that the government, if they're going to take away your liberties, if they're going to take away your rights, and in some cases, if they're going to try to take away your life, they have the obligation of proving you did something and proving it fairly, proving it honestly, and proving it justly. So even if you think, that's why people would always say, well, as a lawyer, how could you possibly defend someone you know is guilty? Because that guilty person has rights too. And by protecting that guilty person's rights, by making the state meet their burden of proof to take away someone's liberty and or life, you're guaranteeing that standard remains in place if through some fuckery you or your loved one becomes an innocent defendant in a situation where they're trying to get you. Protecting the rights of the guilty also protects the right of the innocent. Simple math there. Simple answer to that. Well, how did this all come out for everybody? I hope we had an interesting time with this. We hit the 2.5 hour mark, just a little bit longer than I thought, but hey, that's where we are today. And that's the end of the show. Now we'll just kind of dick around here. I haven't been grifting as hard as I should have tonight. We've got 330 viewers and 391 likes. That's pretty good. But I know there's been a lot of change. So those of you that have stuck around, those of you, have you noticed my voice always gets higher by the end of the show? I get excited. I get high strung. And so my voice goes a little bit higher. Okay. Those of you that stuck through this, those of you that just joined new and haven't hit that like button, please go ahead. I would deeply appreciate it if you do me the favor of liking it. You stuck around, you watched it. Obviously you like it. It takes almost no effort. You leave like zero carbon footprint if you just reach down there and hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please give me a shot. Subscribe to the channel and come back daily, more daily than not, for new and interesting topics. Tomorrow we'll be doing Brandon, what color pants or underwear do you have on? Dark blue, actually. Hey, it matches my shirt and my watch. Cool. Yep. Wait, where do we go here? Ekaro says, I like leaving carbon footprint. It helps grow plants grow. Well, then hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button, and leave a comment later. So there you go. Just quadruple or quintuple that carbon footprint. So, all right. Tomorrow there will be no show. There will be no live show. There's probably about a 20% chance I'll be able to throw something together, some sort of clippy thing up, but I highly doubt that. I got a lot of stuff going, and I'm going to be going late into the night tomorrow. So likely nothing tomorrow. There will be no live stream and most likely no anything else. But on tomorrow's Thursday here, so on Friday, we will be looking at the Alec Baldwin FBI report, I believe. That's what's scheduled. Yep. So Friday will be the Alec Baldwin FBI report on the firearm that killed his cinematographer. And we will also be looking at another interview he did because he can't keep his damn mouth shut. Monday will be Maritime Monday. I haven't decided which of the several options to look at for our maritime accident on next Monday. But one thing we will be looking at is a video of a 42 million pound or $42 million luxury yacht that sank off of Italy yesterday. That's just a short but sad video, especially if you're the owner of the $42 million vessel or the insurance company that might end up paying for it. And that's where we're doing. And for those of you that are keeping track at home and wondering when the next Fuck It Friday is, it will be a week from this Friday. Will be the 2nd, I believe, the 2nd of September. Yep. The next and third Fuck It Friday will be Friday, September 2nd. And what do we do on Fuck It Fridays? For those of you who don't know, we just kind of say fuck it. We talk about dumb shit, talk about people being stupid, funny court cases, people getting tased. We've got a few things lined up that I've locked and loaded for the next Fuck It Friday because it's a very special Fuck It Friday. This Fuck It Friday will be with Fair and Balanced because, as some of you know, we alternate weeks doing unexplained things. We do Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal stuff, ghosts, government conspiracies, things like that. We do that on Fridays, 1 week on her channel, 1 week on my channel. This is the week that things coincide to where it will be an unexplained stream with Fair and Balanced as well as a Fuck It Friday. So remember those dates. And what we do on Fuck It Friday, we talk about fun stuff, and you pay me $100 per shot to drink. It's a grift stream. That's really all it is. It's a hardcore grift stream. We had a good competition to see who could get me the most drunk last week. Will you ever review Darwin Awards? Yeah, we can always do some of that on Fuck It Fridays. And depending on how much money y'all throw at me this next Fuck It Friday, I may be a Darwin Award. Goals. So save your pennies, save your money. I need to crowdfund it next time. The problem with crowdfunding is you get 10 people to throw $10 at you, you die of alcohol poisoning real quick. So yeah, the shots are $100 and above, and you all did a very, very good job of that last time. So let's see what happens this time. Let's see who wins. I think I did pretty good last time. The first one was an absolute mess, but I mixed some food and water last month. I learned my lesson. So we'll do that a week from Friday. Fucking Friday. It's a Farron fucking Friday, or it's a fucking Friday with Farron. And that'll be fun. Save your money. Come to the Griff stream. It'll be worth it. We'll have fun. What I'm doing next week on Tuesday, we'll be doing a sit-down interview with, if you haven't seen it already, that will be reviewing and commenting. So Monday is Maritime Monday. Next Tuesday will be a sit-down with Ben Chu and Camille Vasquez, Johnny Depp's lawyers. It's a sit-down meeting they did with the Beverly Hills Bar Association. where they talk for about an hour about the trial and their roles in it. We'll look at that video. It's been done. Other people looked at it. If you haven't seen it, please come in on Tuesday. What's going to happen Wednesday and Thursday of next week? I have no clue yet. Oh, wait a minute. Again, a new announcement. Next week, Thursday. It probably won't happen before my show starts, but for those of you that are keeping track with the Taylor Shabusiness trial, who was the chick who got hopped up on drugs, offed her boyfriend in her boyfriend's parents' basement, chopped him up into little bits of pieces, and played naughty games with his corpse for 3 hours before leaving his head and his Johnson in a bucket at the bottom of the stairs for his mother to find. That's coming up close to trial, and on September 1st is a status report hearing where the lawyers will give a status report on where they are and whether they're going to be ready to go to trial in October. So hopefully we'll have an update either on Thursday the 1st or Friday the 2nd about the Taylor Shabusiness stuff. So there we go. That's some of the stuff that's coming up later. Thank you all, mods. I think we're gonna call it a day here. It being almost midnight, got to get a couple of more Netflix episodes. Got to clear my Netflix palette of things I'm horrifically backlogged on, and maybe spend an hour doing some Elden Vices. Jesus Christ, some Elden Ring before I go to sleep. Elden Vices. Yeah, doing some Elden Rings before I go to sleep to relax. Brendan Lesko, thank you so much. Personally, I think you drank way too fast last time. A little too slow last go around. Let's get the porridge just right this time. Do you know I'm utterly insane? Well, okay. I was trying to keep up last time, but you throw the money at me faster, Brendan, and that just means I got to drink it faster, I guess. So let's go, Brandon. Ha. See, Brandon, let's go. See how that works. Y'all just caught on, didn't you? Anyway. Take care, y'all. You guys are great. I have the best chat in the world. Mods, thank you for sticking through this whole thing here with me. For those of you that Sunshinery, it's great to see you're still here. Let's see. I guess you're the last mod here. My Beavers unit abandoned me. Alan's abandoned me. Steph abandoned me. Sunshinery, thank you for sticking around. Deeply appreciated, chat. Love you all. There would be no reason for me to be here. So yeah, chat's the reason we're here. I have the best chat on the internet. Thank you so much for all of you that threw super chats at me. I think, yep, I seem to have got all of them. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button on your way out, and I will be back 2 days from now. Friday. Be back Friday evening. And I'm going to be starting a little bit later because I have a dinner appointment on Friday night. So it'll be 10 p.m. Korea time, which is 2 p.m. London time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you live in Australia, it'll be 11 p.m. on Friday. That's when I'll be back next time. And we'll be doing the Alec Baldwin shooting FBI report and a stupid interview he did. Steph, we say, oh, there's a Steph sighting. We have a Steph sighting. Wait a minute. All right. Welcome, Steph. You were hiding. So, all right. Bye, mods. Bye, chat. Bye, everybody. Again, as I leave and walk out the door, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and come back and leave a comment to engage so the algorithm hits us. Until Friday, all of you take care. Love you all. You're the best. And do not forget to enjoy your legal vices. I'm out of here. Bye.